We're going to begin this broadcast tonight with some breaking news. It's out of Charlotte, North Carolina. We have some pictures to show you. There you go. It is showing, it's a protest. I don't want to call it a standoff with police, but protests are spreading after an officer today shot and killed an African-American man who police say was armed. Again, they shot and killed an African-American man who police say was armed. The officer in the shooting video, also black. Again, these are live pictures coming into us from Charlotte, North Carolina, our affiliate WSOC. It's a little bit dark, but you can see officers in a line there with a bus behind them, and you see the protesters in front. There is a large presence of police officers, and there are a number of people who are out on the scene here. So police say they were searching for a suspect with an outstanding warrant when another man, the victim, got out of a vehicle with a firearm, they say posing an imminent deadly threat. They then shot the unidentified man. Detectives say they recovered the firearm that the victim was holding at the scene. An officer has reportedly been injured in the protests tonight. Again, so a man pronounced dead at the hospital. Police there went to serve a warrant. Someone else they had an altercation with in a car. They deemed him as threatening. He was carrying a weapon, according to police. They shot him, and again, he ended up dead. And you're looking at the pictures now of protests. And I know it's dark to see. It's hard to see because it's dark there, but those are protesters on the scene and police officers there all lined up, and police officers trying to gain some control. We're going to continue to monitor that situation, but I want to bring in, as we look at these pictures, Bakari Sellis. He's a former member of the South Carolina House of Representatives. He joins us by phone. Bakari, we're watching these tense images, the situation here on the streets. What do you know about this?
Well, I think that, we're urging everybody to stay as calm as possible, but people are tired. We just saw the images of Terrence Crutcher in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And now you have this incident, and, the family members and neighbors say that this disabled individual who was shot and killed tonight or this afternoon, he was actually carrying a book. And so we'll have to see what the incident really was, and we'll have to see what the facts are. But again, you have another incident that it resulted in an African-American male who was killed. And so people are really anxious, people are worried, people are scared. And it's another tragic incident in our country. And now we have, the escalation of force going on right now, and riot gear and tear gas and all of those things. So, you just pray for people's safety and hope that we can figure out what's going on and make sure that this doesn't happen again.
Okay, Bakari, thank you very much. We'll get back to you if we need more information. But again, we're working the story that's happening in Charlotte and North Carolina. Again, police are saying that they went to serve a warrant on the scene and came in contact with another person on the scene. You can see these are, this appears to be some sort of gas. I don't know if it's tear gas or what. That is being thrown. Not sure by who. It's dark. I can't tell. So you're seeing these pictures as I'm seeing it. I don't know if this is being used by police officers to contain the crowd or if this is being thrown at police officers. And again, that was behind, appeared to be behind the police line. And again, this is all coming to us from Charlotte, North Carolina. And as you can see, 11:04 p.m. Eastern time, and this is happening, and it's been a very volatile time when it comes to police officers and protests, because they're spreading today as well as what we're watching here in Charlotte, after an officer today shot and killed an African-American man who police say was armed. The officer involved in this shooting is also black. Police say they were searching for a suspect with an outstanding warrant. Again, sorry, this is the same situation here. Searching for a suspect with an outstanding warrant. Another man, the victim, got out of a vehicle with a firearm. They say posing an imminent deadly threat. Again, Bakari just said that the man here, he says, was carrying a book, and that he was disabled, but police officers aren't, at least what we've gotten from police are not saying that. But again, we're watching this very tense situation. We're going to keep an eye on it for you, and they will watch it in the control room, and we will get back to you if we get any information on the situation in North Carolina. So let's turn now to the other thing that I was referencing. Let's turn to the shooting death of Terrence Crutcher. It's out of Tulsa, Oklahoma. Shooting death of Terrence by police. The whole thing was caught on camera, and it's sparking a heated debate across this country. Now federal, state, and local authorities are investigating this. I want to give you some background on exactly what happened. Here's CNN's Ana Cabrera.
Police video shows the moments before 40-year-old Terrence Crutcher is shot and killed by a Tulsa police officer. From this dash cam video and a police chopper,
he's got his hands up there for her now.
You can see Crutcher with his hands up. Tulsa police officer Betty Shelby follows with her gun drawn as Crutcher walks back toward his SUV that stopped in the middle of the road.
This guy's still walking and following commands.
3 other officers respond, standing between Crutcher and the dash cam video. But in the helicopter video, it appears Crutcher drops at least one of his hands when he gets to his vehicle.
Not for taser, I think.
But you don't see what Crutcher is doing as he is shot. The helicopter is circling around at that moment.
That looks like a bad dude, too, to be honest with you.
Crutcher falls to the ground.
May have just been tasered. Fired!
Shot and tased.
I'm going to tell you right here now, there was no gun on the suspect or in the suspect's vehicle.
Crutcher was unarmed, but Officer Shelby's attorney, Scott Wood, says she didn't know that. Wood says Crutcher was not responding to Shelby's questions and ignored multiple commands.
No one would walk away from a police officer who's got a gun trained on them and simply ignore the commands. That's not normal behavior.
Did him being a big black man play a role in her perceived danger?
No, him being a large man perceived a role in her being in danger. She's worked in this part of town for quite some time. And, you know, just the week before, she was at an all-black high school homecoming football game. She's not afraid of black people.
Shelby is now on paid administrative leave. While police and Shelby's attorney say Crutcher was reaching in the window of the car when she fired, video of the incident appears to show the driver's window is closed. And we've learned Shelby's husband was the photographer inside the police helicopter, although Wood says it's not his voice heard here.
That looks like a bad dude, too.
That big bad dude was my twin brother. That big bad dude was a father. That big bad dude was a son. That big bad dude was enrolled at Tulsa Community College, just wanting to make us proud.
Crutcher's family and the community are calling for criminal charges against Officer Shelby. Police Chief Chuck Jordan vowing to have a thorough and transparent investigation.
We will achieve justice, period.
Outrage in this community is growing tonight. You can see protesters here gathered outside the police station calling for the arrest of Officer Shelby. There are 2 ongoing investigations right now. There's the criminal investigation that is part of the local police department's investigation into whether or not there was justified use of force in this case. There's also the federal civil rights probe that was opened by the Department of Justice following the release of the video. Now, we asked, did Officer Shelby have a taser? The answer is yes, but it was not deployed. Instead, she fired her gun, which was already drawn. Don?
Thank you very much for that, Anna. I appreciate it. Lots to discuss now. Attorney Monique Presley is here. Jeff Rorta of the St. Louis Police Officers Association, the author of War on Police. Also, Michael Nutter, the former mayor of Philadelphia and a CNN political commentator. There's so much going on. We have what's happening in North Carolina. Now we have what's happening in Tulsa. Let's talk about Tulsa as we keep an eye on North Carolina. Monique, to you first. Officer Shelby's attorney says that she believed that Terrence Crutcher posed an immediate threat to her and the other officers. As you look at that video as a trained attorney, does that video support that?
There's nothing that I can see in the video footage that has been released so far that supports that. What we're finding more and more is that when an African-American male is shot unarmed, we get these tag words, we get these automatic responses, either from the attorney for a particular police officer or from the police department, saying that there was some sort of imminent threat, that the police officer, using their judgment, using their subjective decision-making, believed that they were in imminent danger and took a shot. But you can't see anything here to support that. And even more than that, there were other officers on the ground with Officer Shelby, and they did not sense the same threat. They did not see anything that necessitated them using lethal, deadly force. So no, there's nothing from what we can see so far that would justify the death of this man.
All right, Jeff Rorta, to you next. What do you think of the video?
Well, Don, you know, with all these cases, the first words out of my mouth, I've been on this show over a dozen times, are let's wait for all the information before we reach some judgment. And I think that what we know so far is that this gentleman did not have his hands up when the officer shot him. We know that he was very likely under the influence of a controlled substance. The 911 caller and the police officers said that he appeared to be under controlled substance influence.
But
They
Jeff,
found
with all due
PCP
respect,
in
we
the
won't
car.
know that until we do.
Based on
That
what?
could, yeah.
Right, we're fine with rushing a judgment on the
Based on
police
what?
officer, but we don't want to rush to judgment on the suspect. But they did find
Based on
PCP in his
what?
car, and based on the fact that there's PCP in his car, and
She
the
didn't know
911
that.
caller, who I think
She
is
didn't know that.
African American also, says that
She-
they
what?
think that she thought he was under the influence of something.
Okay, go ahead, Mayor Nutter.
Based on what?
Based on the truth.
There's no evidence that that's a man walking down the street with his hands up. That's a big black man. So now it's BBM. Big black man. Somehow
it's a man
someone
not
is
following
afraid.
orders
You
and
had
then
four.
not
Let
showing
me
his hands.
finish.
Jeff, let
I
him
let
finish,
you
please.
finish.
Okay, I don't think that's true. But
He had his hands up numerous times. He had no weapon. 4 police officers on the scene.
Mm-hmm.
Officer Betsy had a taser. The handgun should not be the first weapon of choice. Never turned to her, never presented a threat. That is the threshold. So
You're
let
wrong.
me be
Okay.
very, very clear.
Okay,
As
go
ma-
ahead. Let
Right, but
Jeff
let's-
respond.
let's
Hold on,
go to
Monique,
Philadelphia.
Monique and Mayor.
I lost 8 police officers killed in the line of duty, 5 by gunfire. The threshold is, does the person present an imminent threat to the officer, presenting a threat to themselves or some other person? That Mr. Crutcher did not present that kind of threat, and there were a number of things that all 4 officers could have done to deal with whatever they thought was going on.
Okay,
She didn't know anything about what was in the car. He didn't do anything.
Yeah.
He was walking down the street
Mayor-
with his hands up.
All right, let's let Jeff
Easy.
respond, please. Go ahead, Jeff.
easy for you to say from the comfort of an air-conditioned studio, Mayor. You don't
I've seen
have
the
the
video.
luxury
You weren't out
of-
there either.
Mayor, let him
Don't-
finish.
Don't
Right.
play me like that.
right.
Go ahead, Jeff.
You weren't out there either.
So when can the officer deploy their weapon? Do they have to be looking down the barrel of a gun?
When
Do they have
there's
to
an
be shot
imminent
at
threat,
first?
when there's an imminent
Well,
threat
they-
to the officer, and you
They
know that.
believe
that
there's
is
an
the
imminent
standard.
threat. Right.
What
And
was
these
the threat?
officers-
So, Jeff,
What
let
did he do?
me ask a
Threat,
question.
the guy
right
won't
now.
show them
Let me
their
ask
hands.
a
The
What was
question.
the threat?
Because
The guy's
you guys are going
lumbering
back and
around
forth
under the
and
influence
nothing
of
is getting
PCP
accomplished.
Very likely, and he won't show his hands.
Okay, Jeff, let me ask you this, just because,
Yes.
again, just to stop
He had
the
his hands
back
up.
and forth and the over-talking. So why not use a taser instead of deadly force?
Well, there were tasers out, Don. They apparently tased the guy, or attempted to tase the guy. There's no evidence when you look at the video that there was
didn't.
actually a shock delivered. You know, as I've talked
She
on
didn't
your
tase
network
him, and she
before,
had a taser.
you know, sometimes, Mayor, come on, give me a chance. Sometimes you miss with the barbs on the taser. Sometimes they catch clothing and they don't catch skin and they don't deliver a charge. The taser was deployed. Whether it effectively delivered a charge or not
By another
is
officer.
unknown.
Okay.
The
Right.
taser was discharged, and just to be clear, the guy has a name. It's Mr. Terrence Crutcher, and just
Right.
to respect the family for their loss here, I would like to get a chance to say that we're all grieving with them, all of us with a conscience, all of
We
us who
should
can
be.
smell the stench of his blood still in the street as we're having this conversation. It's important to note that even if he was disobeying a command, even if he was on PCP, let's just get rid of everything that could possibly come out. This video still does not show that it was justified, that it was necessary for this officer to shoot. We are dealing with implicit biases because of color and because of size. And let's also be clear, if this was a large man who wasn't black, we wouldn't be dealing
Okay.
with the size bias.
No.
Okay,
So
guys,
what
still be,
we
guys,
have
please,
is
please, please
but
listen.
Because
Please
he's white,
listen.
it wouldn't be news.
I've got to
Monique.
take a break. We're going to
Don, one
continue
thing.
on, and we're going to be right back. We're going to be right back.
She had a taser.
All right, we're back now with our breaking news. We're actually covering 2 stories. This one that's live right now out of Charlotte, North Carolina. This is a protest of a police shooting of a man earlier, a black man. The officer was black, by the way, as well. They were serving a warrant on someone, came across this man who was not the man they were serving a warrant on in a car, and they thought he posed a threat, ended up shooting him. He died at the hospital. Now people are out on the streets, and I don't know if you can make it out there, but that line that you see on the right-hand side of your screen, that's police officers, and on the left, those are protesters, and the police officers are trying to gain some control there. So we're going to continue to watch that. But we're also going to talk about this other shooting. This one is out of Tulsa, Oklahoma, police shooting of an unarmed black man. His name is Terrence Crutcher. And back with me now, Monique Presley, Jeff Werda, and Michael Nutter. So in all fairness, I want everyone to be able to make their point. But when you all are talking, people at home can't hear you, and we don't get anything accomplished. I promise. That's all right. I will let all of you speak if you will just allow each other the courtesy to make your points. Okay, first, Hillary Clinton spoke about this on the Steve Harvey radio show today. Let's listen, about implicit bias.
Horrible shooting again? How many times do we have to see this in our country? In Tulsa, an unarmed man with his hands in the air? I mean, this is just unbearable, and it needs to be intolerable. And so, maybe I can, by speaking directly to white people, say, look, this is not who we are. We've got to do everything possible to improve policing, to go right at implicit bias. There are good, honorable, cool-headed police officers. We've seen them in action in New York over the last, 48 hours because of the terrorist attacks. We can do better.
Okay, so Monique mentioned implicit bias. Jeff, I want to you first. What do you think? Does she have a point about implicit bias?
Well, Secretary Clinton's making the same mistake that President Obama has and is rushing to judgment in the case of this officer. I think this officer's innocent until proven guilty and should be treated that way. But yeah, she's right. We're all guilty of implicit bias. Everybody on camera right now, everybody watching your show thinks they know something about other people because of the color of their skin, and it's wrong, and it's a bad, ugly part of our society. The question is whether these police officers in Charlotte and Tulsa acted on that implicit bias, or if they were acting on something else.
Okay, Mayor? Same question.
I don't know what they were acting on, but Don, let's think about what has happened over the last 2-3 days. Mr. Crutcher is killed, has no weapon, has his hands up, his car is broken down, and he's shot dead on a highway. Then there's a guy who we spent the whole weekend looking for, a terrorist. 29 people injured in New York, another unexploded bomb, a shootout in New Jersey. That guy somehow survives. Black guy on the highway, no weapon, just dead. A guy who clearly hurt people intentionally, terrorist, but he was on a gurney that everyone saw on CNN multiple times, and he somehow survived.
Monique?
That's a problem.
I don't disagree with Jeff's point that we all have implicit biases. But what it's important not to miss is that when the police are charged with protecting and serving us, and they are given a state and government sanctioned weapon that can be used to kill an innocent, unarmed man in the street, there is a higher level of responsibility, there is a higher standard of care, and they're not allowed to just have the same biases that everyone else has. They have to have the training and have to be weeded out, frankly, to ensure that things like this don't happen. That whether the bias is race, or whether it's socioeconomic status, or whether it's size, or whether it's I was scared of that person with red hair one day and now they're coming at me. There's a difference between an officer being afraid, which every officer is when they're working, and an officer actually being in imminent danger. That's an entirely different thing.
I think this goes right into what we're talking about. Hold on. I think there's something that, hold on, Mayor. I think there's something that goes right into whether this was implicit bias, because there's a person who is watching from a helicopter who makes a statement about this being a scary dude. Listen to this and then we'll talk about it.
He's got his hands up there for her now. Mike, I'm going to hit the recorder. This guy's still walking and following commands.
Not for taser, I think.
Got a feeling that's about to happen.
That looks like a bad dude, too, to be honest with you.
Which way are they facing?
Police 1, they're facing westbound. I think he may have just been tasered.
Shots fired!
Ooh. 321, we have shots fired. We have one suspect down. We need MC here.
Jeff, how would someone be able to tell from the air that that was a bad dude?
Well, so listen to the audio closely, Don. The first thing he says is he's got his hands up now. So that implies that when they first got there, when they're watching from the sky initially, he doesn't have his hands in the air. They say this looks like a bad dude. I think he's on something. I think it's not his size or his skin color. It's the fact that he appears, even from a helicopter in the sky, to be under the influence of something.
Okay.
Is why they're saying he's a bad dude.
All right, let the mayor.
By the way, that's what the 911
like
car said,
5,000
too.
feet in the air. How do you know he's a quote-unquote bad dude? What are you talking about? If you look at the video,
same way the
from all the
911
various
caller
angles.
knew.
Let me finish. I didn't say anything across you. Let me finish.
Go ahead.
If you look at the video from the ground and from the air, numerous times you see Mr. Crutcher with his hands in the air. What does it mean he's a bad dude? I mean, A, that's bias right there. But when all is said and done, the officer had another option. She was actually carrying a taser herself. The fact that one officer shot his taser, and maybe it had an effect or didn't have an effect, does not mean that the next thing you should do is use your firearm. This is the whole issue here in policing. And I've lost police officers. I have been at their hospitals when they've died. I've been at their gravesides. But the fact of the matter is, it's about training, it's about mindset, and to use everything else that you can before you ever have to use your firearm. The officer should have used her taser before going to the firearm.
We could go on
and deny that.
We can go on and continue to.
You can't deny
continue
that.
to talk about this, and we will. And we'll
done.
have you back, but unfortunately, we're out of time, and we'll continue to follow this story happening out of Tulsa, Oklahoma. Thank you, Monique. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Mayor Nutter. Appreciate that. And we're also going to follow. I don't know if we still have the live pictures out of North Carolina, out of Charlotte. There's some breaking news going on there. Protests, police, they're out. I don't want to call it a standoff, but at least police are trying to gain control over protesters for a shooting that happened there today involving a police officer. I'm sorry. The man who was shot has been identified. I'm just getting the information from Keith Lamont Scott. Keith Lamont Scott. That's the man who's been identified as being the victim of the shooting today in Charlotte, North Carolina. His family has been notified. Again, I'm getting this information. The producers are telling me in my ear as I'm talking, and we'll continue to watch these pictures for you. Keith Lamont Scott is a man shot in North Carolina tonight. Shot earlier today. The pictures that we're watching from North Carolina, I'm also being told that his family has been notified. We'll be right back.